All right, welcome back to Frontline Fridays, where we dive into the hearts and minds of leaders who elevate retail and hospitality frontlines to greatness. And what's their secret? We are here to find out on every episode. This show is brought to you by YOOBIC, the AI-powered mobile app that gives frontline teams the performance tools they need to communicate, learn, and work right in the palm of their hand. And I'm Ron Thurston to guide us on this journey. I'm the author of a best-selling book called Retail Pride and the co-founder of a company called Aussie, where we are completely reimagining retail recruiting, from free digital profiles for candidates to our flat rate fee model for retailers that will save you up to 85% off traditional recruiters. We're changing the game of recruiting. You can check us out at useaussie.com. So I am very excited to have two incredible leaders with me today, Joe Cox and Jennifer Steichen. I would call them two formidable retail leaders in our industry making big waves. So Joe Cox, with over 6 years at Blu Dot, currently serves as the regional manager of retail, overseeing the southern stores and driving sales initiatives. Joe has a stellar track record, having previously excelled as a store manager at their Austin location, where their leadership and customer service skills shone, and prior experience in field marketing for Madewell's West region. Joe brings a deep understanding of retail and a passion for exceptional customer service and community engagement. And Jennifer Steichen, Vice President of Retail at Blu Dot, just 90 days in, I learned today, brings a wealth of expertise in sales operations and real estate management. Previously, she was the Chief Operating Officer at the Bay Club Company, overseeing $300 million portfolio and enhancing the member experience. And where she and I met about 5 years ago, she was the Vice President of Stores at Athleta, where she led over 7,000 employees, opened 70 new stores, and achieved top customer service satisfaction scores. Her career at Gap Inc., including managing global franchise operations for driving store growth in Greater China. And Jen's hands-on leadership and the ability to drive transformational growth are widely recognized. And together, Joe and Jennifer are shaping the future of retail at Blu Dot with their unparalleled expertise and vision. So with that intro, welcome Jennifer and Joe to Frontline Fridays.
Thank you.
To be here.
Yeah.
Great, so happy. So just a quick update for everyone. So the three of us worked together, and you hosted, I attended, I don't know how I would describe it, an event at your store here in Miami, beautiful location. And I did a fireside chat with your CEO and co-founder, John Christeco. So that was a lot of fun. We got to kind of have our Blu Dot love in the store, met customers, met other like local retail people, and this just continues that relationship. So I'm really glad that you're here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So I want to jump in, and maybe Joe, for those that may not know Blu Dot, we'll talk about size of company, but you're not in every city. You've got a large e-commerce business. So tell everyone a little bit more about Blu Dot and how it was founded, kind of some of John's story, and we'd love to learn more.
So we are based out of Minneapolis, founded by three folks who always say that everything they liked, they couldn't afford, and everything they could afford, they didn't like. So with that, Blu Dot was born. I love the story of how the first time our founders went to a trade show, they were kind of making it all up as they went along. And they went with these order forms, and they didn't buy the smallest booth that they could get because they wanted to look like they had it together. So they went one size up, and they got a bunch of orders. And then they were like, oh my gosh, how do we actually make these things? Luckily, I think there was a FedEx or UPS at the time. So it ended up giving us some time to really get it together. But I think that's such a great story of how we come from scrappy starts. We do everything we can on our own. We are designers by nature, and we design and create everything you see to this day in Minneapolis. So we really have something special going for us. Our designs, our people, but as you'll learn over the next hour, Blu Dot's incredibly special to both Jen and I, and we're really excited to be able to share this story.
Amazing. And Jen, kind of walk us through a little bit more about core values and how they show up and what you've already discovered 90 days in about this brand.
Yeah, I think, well, 90 days, you learn a lot, but you also learn a lot in the interview process, right?
Yeah.
And so, I've had the unique experience to get to interview really over the last few years with lots of different companies in specialty retailer, in mass retail, hospitality at the Bay Club, which I recently came from. And you can tell a lot about a company's values, good or maybe sometimes room for improvement as you're going through an
Mhm.
interview process. So I would say right off the bat, when I met with John, our CEO, and one of our founders, the level of pride and creativity that exuded him, I think we were meant to speak for an hour and we talked for almost an hour and a half. But our core values were written by our founders and they aren't overly corporate, which I loved. Everyone's welcome to our party, turn it up to 11. They're just real and authentic. And I think
Yeah.
everybody I met along my journey through my interview process, when it was, from the C-suite, from our CFO, all the way to when I finally got to meet a team of what would be my direct reports, Joe, Chris, and
Mhm.
Kelly. And when I met them, I was like, okay, now I have to have this job because there was such passion and pride and such an immediate connection I felt immediately through a Zoom conversation. So I think it's, how people live those values, and you can sniff it out if it's real or if it's
Yeah.
authentic,
Yeah.
by just conversations that you have with people. And
Yeah.
no matter if you're the interviewer or interviewing the interviewee, I think it's so critical to just show and explore, who you are as a person, but also, who your company is, and give people a
Mhm.
glimpse into that.
I love it. And you're right. I think as even myself, as someone that's been through a lot of interviews, interviewed a lot of people, and today has a recruiting company, I can tell you, even as a recruiter for brands, I know the ones that where the candidate's going to have an extraordinary experience, and the ones where I almost kind of discourage it. I'm like, yeah, maybe let's think about another opportunity
Somewhere
at a
else.
brand that really like celebrates who you are. And so you're right. You discover and you have the ability to choose based on an interview experience. And I firmly believe that sets the stage for retention um, and and your commitment to doing great work. So
I
it's such a good
agree.
story. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Joe, how do those values that Jen's describing show up with the customer? What's the company's vision of how the customer should experience those core values?
Sure, that's a great question. So everything we do is centered around the customer. We're here for the customer. So if we are turning it up to 11, if we're making sure that they're invited to our party, and if we're always leading with good design is good, again, a design company, that will be felt. We believe that our store folks are really the pioneers and are out there, the gurus. They understand our story, our design quirks, our Minneapolis roots better than anyone else can. So if they can bring these to our customers and to their communities in a really organic way, we feel like that's beautiful. And again, this is such an innate part of who our people are that again really does go back to our hiring. It's felt, it feels authentic, it's fun, and the customers feel that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would
Yeah.
build upon it. I think, Ron, you mentioned our event in Miami, and our CEO was John Christakis was there with us. And one of
Yeah.
my best Blue Dot moments, honestly, was watching an interaction with John and one of our associates, Tyler. And Tyler just recently graduated with his architect degree, and he had his portfolio
Mhm.
and he was showing it to John. And
I saw
um,
that.
the interaction and how excited Tyler was to show our fearless leader his portfolio. Obviously, that was a momentous time for him in his journey as a young creative,
Yeah.
but also just to see the mentoring capabilities of John based on, you know, decades of creative and design experience was really cool to see. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I feel really proud about is the diversity of our teams from a creative perspective. We have sculptors, we have painters, we have musicians, we have architects, we have interior designers,
Yeah.
we have retailers, we have apparel retailers, we have Target specialty retailers, you know. And I think the unique part is blending what our founders created, which is this good design is really good, with a diverse candidate background that has creative capabilities. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I love about retail is, you know, there's an art and a science, right, to retail. There's the
Yeah.
creative side, there's the, you know, sales side, and there's the business side, right? And
Mhm.
blending those two together, the art and the science, what Blu Dot does really well is the left brain and the right brain, but it's similar, right? There's an art and science to how you drive your business. And that's a
Mhm.
really cool part of Blu Dot.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And just continuing on that, so you and I met when I became the vice president of stores of Intermix, and you were VP of stores of Athleta. So in theory, we were peers, but you had a much bigger job than I did. But we, during COVID and, you know, starting in March, April 2020, you and I were on calls together every day. And I think that for both of us, those were these kind of moments in time where your leadership really comes to test of, you know, big decisions, important decisions, things we had to make decisions about with no information. There was a lot. I remember those calls really clearly from home. And so you have this wealth of experience joining Blu Dot. So clearly they have very big plans of growing all channels, wholesale, retail, e-com, all of it. Kind of, do you have a personal vision or kind of how you're going to do that coming from a much larger company?
Yeah. Well, I set my sights on something smaller after having a nearly 25-year career with Gap Inc. I
Yeah.
credit Gap Inc. to, you know, a lot of really great things in my career. When I was ready for next, they were ready right beside me. And, you
Mm.
know, learning from the best and having just the retail fundamentals and the capabilities that it taught me really globally was super exciting. And you're right. The pandemic was, I always call it a masterclass in leadership because it truly tested your capabilities as a leader, how agile you were, how you lead with humanity, your ability to empathize, your ability to be able to remain strong and confident as you move the business forward during kind of unprecedented times.
Yeah.
The last 10 years of my career have been filled with growth. China, when I got to China, there was 69 stores. When I left, there was 150. So it was a crazy 3 years. You mentioned 70 stores opening with 1 year, within 3 years at Athleta, but 1 year of that was the pandemic. So we were incredibly agile in opening stores. And so as I set my sights on kind of my next position, I knew I wanted to be in a growth business. And I knew that I love opening new stores and creating connections with customers who haven't experienced a brand like Blu Dot. And you know, there's a really cool product that we are offering, great designs, great price, and the ability to get it to customers quickly. And one of the things that I love also is leading complex businesses. And you know, at Gap
Mm.
brand, you had 4 sub-brands that you were leading. And the unique thing about Blu Dot is the business is super complex. You mentioned wholesale. Obviously, there's the
Yeah.
omni-channel component between the web, but there's trade and contract business. There's um, all of that complexity, and really the sky's the limit as we continue to drive brand awareness with our residential customers. And so leading through that complexity and helping the stores unleash the power of their associates
Yeah.
and of our leadership teams is super fun challenge that I'm excited to lead the team through.
Yeah. And what I love about that story is that, and I share this often, you know, our careers in retail don't have to be defined by a product category. You know, Joe came from apparel, you came from athletic apparel most recently, but you're right, 25 years at Gap Inc., you sold all kinds of different things. And and my career, you know, starting at the Gap, but I was at West Elm, I was at Apple, I was in luxury, I was, so at the end of the day, it didn't really matter what the product was. Great leadership is great leadership, and how you motivate and inspire and create experiences, whether you're selling a sofa or you're selling a handbag or you're selling leggings, it doesn't, in my opinion, you're learning product knowledge, but the core foundation of leadership can be the same.
I agree.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
agree.
think
And
that's-
that's the cool part. I think Joe brings a really cool background from her retail experience around eventing. And she has a fantastic network. I mean, I was just in one of her stores this week in LA, and Nicole met Joe through her Dachshund dog breeder, right?
Yep.
Joe, tell the story of how you network and find great talent, because I think you do.
Sure.
That's a great one.
Thank you. I think it's just about making real connections, having real conversations with people. I will say it's also something I enjoy. I always say people are my skill. And so always keeping in touch, keeping top of mind, and talking. Bryce, who is one of the people we got our dachshunds from, we stayed in touch, and he came from the furniture world as well. And he knew several people that we've since brought over. Great people tend to know great people, and really listening and knowing the stories about these folks and how they've worked has been awesome. And then also when you get to know someone on a personal level and build almost a friendship, I find that you work so much better together. I always say we see each other more than we see our families, really. So we need to be having fun in our stores. Our customers can feel that we're having fun, that we like each other, that we love what we're selling. And that, again, authenticity is just so much a part of retail. Someone can buy leggings from 4 different places, right? We have phenomenal designs, but they could get a chair from somewhere else. But it's part of that experience and our amazing people that will keep folks coming back to Blu Dot, to us, to our leaders.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Can you go back for a moment, Joe, to a couple of your values, because I think they're so interesting. So one, you know, an entrepreneurial mindset. So this is one that I think shows up on a lot of lists of company culture,
Yes.
but doesn't actually, in fact, be encouraged or actually executed well at the field level. I think there's so much talent and there's so many great ideas that come from the field that are very entrepreneurial that aren't always welcome at the top. But if you tell us more about how you manage that, because no doubt there's a lot of ideas coming from stores.
Sure. So I'll start with a story. At Madewell, I oversaw field marketing at 80 plus stores. When I came to Blu Dot, I was managing one. I was a store manager in Austin, and I found that I had so much more autonomy as a store manager managing that one store than I did at my previous role at Madewell. This is still wild to me. There was so much trust placed in me, and I feel like we still do a really good job of this, but we hire people that we know will treat the business like their business, and then we place trust in them. We allow them to be creative. Another one of our core values is stay curious. And with that, us as an HQ team, it's our job to stay curious and see what our teams are saying, because what Miami may need, especially from a marketing perspective, isn't going to be the same as Dallas. So what can we learn from our folks? And to Jen's earlier point, we have people from such diverse backgrounds. We want to bring in all the little nuggets of knowledge that they've learned along the way too. So there are things we can learn from our architect friends versus our retail friends. And how do we take all of that knowledge and really learn and grow from it and shape retail in a way where we are corporate, but we don't feel very corporate. And I don't think we ever want to be. And we found that spot, and we want to continue operating that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything you would add, Jen, around just how the values show up like that with your team?
Yeah, I think when I was in my interview process and I talked with Joe and Chris and I mentioned Kelly from our store operations team, what they were really proud of was the culture that they had built in the stores. And I definitely feel that it's alive, it's well, it's
Mhm.
thriving. One of the things that stood out to me as I was interviewing with Blue Dot was this idea of being stubbornly different, and I just loved that. Well, one, because I'm stubbornly different, and it's kind of how I have built my career. But there's something about all of us in retail that is stubbornly different, you know, as well
Mhm.
as this like scrappy, I can get it done. And there's a tremendous amount of will and heart in our field organizations in any company that I've worked for.
Mhm.
And that heart and that will has to be fostered, right? It has to be cultivated, it has to be grown by leaders. And one of my kind of tried and true guideposts is that when you're stuck at headquarters and you can't figure something out, what do? You go to a store, right?
Yeah.
Because the answers are in the stores, and the stores are our classroom because they're closest to the customer. And I think sometimes in the fray of the business, we all got to hit our numbers and we got to hit our plan and you got to hit your budget and you got to hit your payroll. All of those things can become noise to cultivating what has to be true in the field,
Yeah.
and what they're doing each and every day with our most important stakeholder, which is our customer, you know, and
Yeah.
which is our associates. So I think what we do a really good job of is listening and cultivating. I'm almost out to the entire fleet thus far. I made it a top priority in my first 100 days to get out and listen and learn. And I'm meeting with every associate and, you know,
Yeah.
finding out that secret sauce of what each store competitive advantage is, but also the unique kind of superpowers, not only of the store manager, but of the associates that make up that team and complement that team, is really,
Mhm.
really cool.
Mhm. And I would imagine, I'm just also reflecting on your time at Athleta, what you're describing of minimizing the noise just gets that much more complex. And so you're that person, and I've had this question before, like, why is the kind of head of stores role so critical in any organization? And regional manager, head of stores, all of it, because you are that person who manages the noise.
Yep, that's
And
right.
because there's so much from the office, there's so much coming everywhere, there's so much from the store, you're the person that holds the power of the noise control, the
Yes.
volume. You turn it up to 11, I'm trying to turn it down, trying to turn the noise down. This idea of, from the field, but that it's a real skill. And I don't think it should be under recognized, of the ability to manage noise,
Yes.
because that's exactly what happens without controls, communication tools, all of it. The noise just gets louder, and then that's where like dissent begins.
Yeah. I think it's so true. And I've always described um, you know, the store operations team at headquarters kind of as air traffic control, right? And they are
Mhm.
managing all of the cross-functional communication. And then the retail leadership teams are, you know, they're deflecting, right? They're filtering, they're keeping, you know, rigor around prioritization. And ultimately, retail's not a complex business, no matter what product you're selling. The
Yeah.
challenge is that in any organization, we try and overcomplicate things. And so one leadership focus I've always had is simplification, no matter which field organization I'm leading. Even in China, when I didn't understand the language and everything was through translation, it's all about simplification because you want to create capacity and systems and routines so that the
Mhm.
stores, the store manager, their associates, their leadership team can do their best work and focus on what only they can do, which is drive sales, right? And I think that that's the work of the work that we're doing at Blu Dot with Joe and Chris and the store operations team is, shifting some of the work that was on Joe and Chris's shoulders to store
Mhm,
operations so that they can be
mhm,
empowered to spend more time with their teams in the stores.
mhm. Amazing. Thank you. Joe, I want to shift to you in our last couple of minutes here. I'll come to both of you, but as you think about your background and you worked in marketing, stores, um, had now multi-store roles, when you meet new associates, when you meet people or you're in like in industry events, what advice are you giving kind of people that are entering the industry or would love to sit in that beautiful Blu Dot chair that you have right now? How does someone get that?
So for people that are entering the industry, do you mean retail or furniture?
Retail
Sure.
specifically, like
Always,
multi-store retail.
sure. I say it takes a certain type of person to love this. I think you reference this in your book, and it's true. We're all retail nuts, and somehow we got here. So if you do what
Sure.
you love, and if you drive results, ask for what you want. Ask for the next role. I had been in two
Mhm.
situations, both as well and at Blu Dot, where the next role I took wasn't a thing, and I did it. I knew what I enjoyed doing, and once I proved myself or showed these results, I could then ask for what I wanted. And I think there is beauty in really trusting who you report to and saying, hey, this is where I see myself. Do you see that? What do you need me to get there? And as long as we have these open conversations and we also work hard and bring everyone that's around us up with us, that's when you really see success. I will also say, I do think some of it was luck where I joined both Madewell and Blu Dot when we were younger in retail. Madewell
Mhm.
had stores at the time, and Blu Dot, I mean, we still are nowhere near where Madewell was at the time. But the opportunity for these positions also existed. But again, work hard, enjoy what you're doing, drive results, make sure there is a path for what you want to do, but then speak to it.
Yeah. And and thank you for saying the results piece because you have to deliver great results
Why we're doing
to
this.
have while you're doing it. And I think that sentence is missed from the equation of getting to next.
Yeah.
And you might be really good at many things, but you've got to deliver great results. So continue to strive to deliver. And then let's have a conversation about your future. But if you can't do that, then you can't inspire future leaders to do the same thing.
Or troubleshoot when
Yeah,
something goes wrong. You almost have to experience all of it to know how to guide.
all of it for sure. Jen, I'll finish with you. Kind of as I'm sure you many times given advice to people that would love to sit in your beautiful Blu Dot chair. How do you win in this industry and leadership?
Yeah. I would say, I've had an incredibly rewarding over 30 years in retail. For the first 10 years, my dad kind of made me feel a little bit like guilty or not ashamed, but like not as proud as I could be. Cause like he would say, why did I pay for 4 years of college and you're just working in the mall, you know? So what I would say is like my dad and I don't have that conversation anymore because I've created a very robust global career doing what I love. So be proud of a career in retail. That's what I would say. You are learning to deal with complexity, business analytics, people, interpersonal skills, life skills. And that is super rewarding. And as you grow your career, it can be lucrative, right? And so be proud of a career in retail. Don't let anybody make you feel otherwise. And drive results and develop your people, right? And teach them. A lot of what I would encourage people to do is teach versus tell. And I've found a really cool career by doing just
Yeah, and share that knowledge generously. I think
that.
it's
Yes.
actually one of the things we love about this industry is that because we have chosen this life of service, that we love to give and share knowledge generously. And you're right; it's strange to meet someone uh, in the field, at least, who holds their knowledge closely.
Yeah.
All we want to do is talk about, oh, can I show you this? Can I talk more about this? Or maybe here's another solution It's how we just operate naturally. I don't think that's always true in corporate environments. And so people that then get to corporate world from the field are like, why is everyone so siloed? Why does it not always
Why
translate?
don't we
So
say hello to each other, you know, in the
all of that. But thank you both. We're right at time. It's been such a pleasure to continue my relationship with both of you and Blu Dot. It's a joy. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. All right, so let me just wrap up here. So I will be back in 2 weeks on June 21st with Kate Sargent, and we're going to go into a topic that I think will be pretty fun and engaging with a topic called honest coaching advice that's nobody's giving you, which I love. And then I will be in Dallas on Monday at the GDS Summit delivering the keynote I'm calling 10 Things I Learned About Retail from Living in Campgrounds for a Year. This will be fun. And be sure to follow YOOBIC on LinkedIn for show details. Go to youbic.com and there's a whole page dedicated to this show to see all prior episodes. And if you're on the hunt for next generation communication, micro learning, and task management tools to guide your frontline teams into the future, check out what YOOBIC can do. Just click the link in the comments. And with that, have a great weekend, everyone. And thank you again, Jennifer and Joe.